Good evening, everyone. I, on behalf of Women Young Members Excellence Committee of ICAI, welcome you all in the Sky High Symposium Series 48. Sky High Symposium is a Wednesday series of program conducted by the Committee for the Women and Young Members. It is one of the Women Young Members Excellence Committee's initiative to not only disseminate information to members on technical updation and non-technical skills, but also to empower and inspire them to come to forefront and realize their verbal skill at public forum. Today, we are going to cover session on, we have a speaker, CA Dipali Mehta. She is qualified FCA since 1996. And she is also practicing since 2007. She is a founder partner of Mehta and Shah, a chartered accountancy firm engaged in providing services in the area of taxation, advisory and accounting in the area of direct as well as indirect taxes. She has received the Best Group Leadership Award for the year 2010-11 and also 14-15 at Intensive Study Circle meeting at Goods and Services Tax Practitioner Association, Maharashtra. She has also received Best Column Writer for 2018-19 and Appreciation Memento for Dedicated Contribution for 1920 in GST Review Monthly Magazine of Goods and Service Tax Practitioner Association, Maharashtra. She was convener of IDT Study Circle Meeting, WRC, for financial year 1920. She was committee members in IDT and CTC for 2021 and 21-22. Now she is giving lecture at various CPC Study Circle Meeting, WRC, Chamber of Tax Consultant and GST PAM Intensive Study Circle coaching classes. She is a training to administrative personnel of corporates on procedure aspect on complying indirect tax law. It is my pleasure to introduce CA Dipali Madam. Please start your session. Thank you.
Thank you, Sneha, for your kind words. I thank the Women and Young Member Committee of ICA for giving me this opportunity. I just share my screen. Good evening, everybody. So this is the Sky High Symposium. It's the woman touching the sky. Okay. This is the Sky High Symposium. You can see the female touching the sky, and this is the symposium, means a meeting, a conference. So the ICI has initiated a very good initiative for all the women chartered accountants who wants to have a platform for speaking and to come up and present their knowledge in front of everybody. So I really thank Preeti Savla for starting this initiative and giving opportunity to so many women chartered accountants as a speaker, as a coordinator.
Shall I address Dipali Madam for 2 minutes?
Yes, welcome Preeti, please. Please come. I will stop sharing, just a second. Yes, Preeti.
Hello, friends. Hello, friends, and this is our endeavor to serve all of you the best. And this is the 49th series of Sky High Symposium. And today we have the speaker on GST, and very soon we are also starting with the special learning series on various topics. And 4 topics what we have shortlisted is about GST, accounting and Ind AS, then international taxation, direct taxation. So about 5 sessions on each topics, along with some soft skills on presentation. And this will be the entirely practical series. How if someone wants to start the practice in some particular area, so should actually join this series and upgrade the knowledge, the practical knowledge on each of the topics. So very soon we will be launching, maybe end of April or May, as per the availability of the speakers. All the arrangements we are doing for the same. So friends, with this words, let me compliment today's speakers, Dipali and other speakers, all the coordinators, moderators, Sneha, Priyanka, Karishma, Miki, and my WYMEC office, Shanu, Jaya, Ruchi. So over to you, Dipali.
It's a pleasure hearing you, Preeti. Thank you so much. So, friends, we start with our session, that is the latest news, the latest GST updates, and as well what opportunities this GST updates can give to the female chartered accountant. That also I will just go through it. Now, this is a small scenario I am sharing with you. What is the GST revenue collection in March 23? Year on year, the collection is going on increasing. And in March 23, it has reached almost 1,60,122 crore, of which CGST is 29,546, SGST is 37, and IGST is 82,000 crores. Also, import of goods, IGST, whatever is collected, is coming to around 42,503 crores. So, if you can see that it is saying that this is the fourth time in the current financial year, there is a financial year 2022-23, GST gross collection has crossed 1.5 lakh crore mark. And it's a very commendable thing, because the way people are growing, the way business is growing, the collection is also growing. So when the clients tell us that, there is no business or we are going slow, the revenue tells us exactly the opposite, that the collection is increasing day by day. Also, the settlement of government, central government with the state government, that also dues, majority of them are settled. And total gross collection for the whole year 22-23, it stands at around almost 18.10 lakhs crores. So monthly around 1.51 lakh crore average out comes out, which is 22% higher than the last year. So we can see that how the GST collection is increasing. And GST is basically an indirect tax, consumption-based tax. So when this collection increases, it shows that the consumption of the society is increasing. And at the same time, when the consumption increases, the demand and supply ratio will balance itself, and the business will also grow of everybody. There are various notifications which has come. Let me just hide this. Okay, so very currently in the 49th GST Council meeting, they had announced various amnesty schemes for return non-filers. So what are those schemes? And they had also mentioned that they will come out with notification and announce the various schemes for the people who have not filed the returns since financial year 17-18. Now, if you all must be aware, in October or November 21, they had announced amnesty scheme for return non-filers of regular dealers. Regular dealers matlab dealers who are not falling under the composition scheme, or they are the regular dealers who are not falling under the reverse charge mechanism. So that time they had announced such a scheme. So now they have come out with this scheme for first notification, which is notification number 2 by 2023. They have come out amnesty scheme on late fees for the composition dealers. The composition dealers have to file GSTR 4. This is an annual return which they have to file once in the whole year, and that is before 30th of April of the next period. So for example, for 22-23, they have to file before 30th of April 23. So in such a scenario at present, for nil return, the actual late fee is INR 50 per day, restricted to INR 500. Okay, so for nil return, the actual late fee is rupees 50 per day. This 50 is combined of CGST and SGST. So I have written the combined amount, that is the per day actual amount which the dealer has to pay. In the notification, definitely they have mentioned only 25 rupees because that is only connected to the CGST, as the notification has come under the CGST Act. Similar notification is expected under the Maharashtra GST Act, and hence per day late fee for nil return GSTR 4 is 50 rupees, restricted to 500 rupees. So maximum late fee which you can pay is INR 500 if the return is nil. What is the amnesty benefit provided? It says there will be no late fee charged if you file the nil return. And this return should be filed prior to 30th June 23. Now friends, I would like to tell here one caution which I have also faced. So that is the reason I am sharing with you, that when you are filing a nil return, there are two ways of filing a nil return. First way is you get a tag above when you just start filing the return, you get a tag that whether you want to file a nil return, yes or no. So whenever you want to file a nil return, you have to tick that yes and file the return. Okay. But if you tick that no and then you go into the main return form and there you put 00 value everywhere, it is not considered as nil return, it is considered as a regular return. So mind it well, whenever you are filing a nil return, you just have to tick the nil return box here. Then only this amnesty benefit of late fee will be available to you for the nil return. Otherwise, if you go inside the return and put all the values 0 and then file it, then again it's a regular return, normal and late fee which is levied to a normal regular composition dealer, that will be applicable. Now, nil return be completed. Other than nil return, if you are filing the GSTR 4, then generally you are paying again 50 rupees per day, but that is restricted to INR 2000. So for example, 17-18, say if you have not filed this GSTR 4, then per return, the late, see, for the period 17-18, 18-19 and 19-20. The GSTR 4 was a quarterly filing return. Every quarterly you were supposed to file GSTR 4. Okay, so then you have 2000 rupees qua return. Is the late fee applicable if you have not filed since 17-18? In the actual late fee. But now they have provided this amnesty benefit where the maximum limit is reduced to only 500 rupees. So now if you are filing 17-18 other than nil return, then the late fee which is happening is only INR 500 rupees. But the condition here again is that the return has to be filed prior to 30th June 23. So this amnesty benefit, mind it well, is applicable only if you file the return prior to 30th June 23. And this is applicable from the period from 17-18 to 21-22 only. Because for 22-23, the due dates will start now. So till 21-22, this late fees are applicable. Then there is another notification, notification number 7 by 2023, which is for the GSTR 9 non-filers. Means the people, the dealers who have not filed GSTR 9, for them the amnesty benefit at present the actual late fee is INR 200 rupees per day, subject to maximum 0.5% of the turnover. Okay, so 200 rupees per day subject to 0.5% of the turnover is your actual GSTR 9 late fee. And now this late fee maximum amount is restricted to 20,000 only. 200 rupees is continuing, but maximum amount what can be levied is restricted to 20,000. Now suppose you are having a turnover of say 5 CR. So when you are having a turnover of 5 CR, so what will be the actual late fee if you are filing for 17, 18, 18, 19 now? So that will be approximately 2,50,000, 5 CR ka 0.5%. Okay. But when you are filing now before 30th June 23, then the late fee is restricted only to 20,000. So then the next notification which has come is 8/2023, which is for GSTR 10. Now what is this GSTR 10? GSTR 10 is the final return. And what do you mean by final return? Final return means the return which you finally file, after which you are not supposed to file any return. So when you are cancelling the registration and when you receive the cancellation order, you are supposed to file this GSTR 10 within 3 months of the receipt of the cancellation order. So within 3 months you have to file. If you are not filing within 3 months, then after 3 months, your late fee starts, which is again 200 rupees per day, maximum of INR 10,000 rupees. Okay, now this late fee has been reduced to only 500 rupees if this return is filed before 30th June 23. So lot of benefit has been given by the government to the non-filers of the return, for composition dealers, for final returns and for annual return also. Another major relief is the best against the best judgment assessment order. Now, if you can see the guy sitting aram say, okay, I am getting an excellent relief under this. Now, what is this best judgment assessment order? What is this section 62? What does it say? Now, suppose if you are not filing a GSTR 3B, okay, when you do not file the GSTR 3B, a notice will be issued to you under this section 62, which comes in form GSTR 3A. Okay. Now, once this notice is issued, the taxpayer has to file the return. And if the taxpayer files the return within 15 days of the receipt of this notice, then this notice is ignored. All right. But if the taxpayer fails to furnish the return, the proper officer may pass the best judgment assessment order based on the documents and information available with him. Now, for example, the dealer has filed GSTR 1 but not filed 3B. Okay, so then they have the sales figure. So on the basis of the sales figure, they will pass the best judgment assessment order. And if they do not have the outward supply or the sales figure, then they may pass the best judgment order on the basis of the past returns, whatever the dealer has filed. So on the basis of this, they will pass this best judgment order. And when this order is passed, again the taxpayer is given a time of 30 days to file the return. And if the taxpayer files the return within 30 days of passing of this best judgment assessment order, then the order stands withdrawn. Okay, but now what had happened? These notices are issued online. The order is also issued online. Many times the dealer does not receive only this notice, maybe because of the telephone number, the contact number on the GST website is something different, or some other issues, portal issues are there. Somewhere or the other, many of the dealers had not received this notice at all. And also they did not receive this best judgment assessment order. And thus they were not able to take the advantage of their 30 days to file the return. Now, once this order is passed, that means within 90 days, the recovery will start. So the only option available to the dealer was to go into appeal against such orders. lot of appeals were filed against such orders because of the issue that either the dealer has not received the notice, or if at all he has received the notice, he has simply ignored it. Because of which this assessment order is passed. Now the government has received representation from many associations stating that because in 17, 18, 18, 19 the portal was not working properly, dealers were not receiving notices ka email, the assessment orders ka email. So please consider and give some relief to such people, because unnecessary lot of litigations, appeal mein sab log khade hai, so unnecessary so many litigations will be there. So government came out with this scheme that if whosoever dealers has received such orders, okay, either they have received such orders recently or they have received earlier and now they are in appeal against this order, any either of the case, okay, whether they are in appeal or whether they are not in appeal, if they are filing this return before 30th June 23, one more opportunity is given for to the non-filer to file the return. So if they are filing this return, particular return period for which this assessment order is issued before 30th June 23, then the order stands withdrawn. Okay, and even if you file the appeal, automatically the appeal will also stand withdrawn. Okay. Right? So you have to withdraw the appeal because you have filed the return. The appeal will also stand withdrawn, the order will also stand withdrawn, and it will be null and void. Only thing is if you file the return before 30th June 23. And the other condition is that the order should have been issued before 28th February 23. So if the order is issued on 1st March 23, then this scheme is not applicable. Okay, so order has to be issued before 20th February 23, and you have to file the return before 30th June 23 and get the benefit of this assessment order being withdrawn. Another bonanza, they have given so many facilities in this 49 GST Council meeting. And afterwards, whatever notifications just recently came on 31st March. This is notification number 3 by 2023. You all must be aware that a lot of registrations were cancelled initially because the returns were not filed, or because 1 was filed, 3B was not filed. People were confused and the registration got cancelled. Now this registration, if it is cancelled by the department, then the dealer has to apply for the revocation of this registration. For that also time period is there given to the dealer is maximum up to 90 days. So if the officer cancels the registration today, then within 90 days, the dealer has to file for the revocation of the registration. Okay. But unfortunately, many dealers have skipped this. So now what happens is that they have revoked the registration. The dealer may not be aware. Now the dealer wants to start the registration because he wants to pay the tax and everything. See, during the COVID period, so many issues have happened. So many businesses were down. So people were not paying the taxes. And then because of that, so many registrations were cancelled. And people did not have the... they were not aware also that the registration is cancelled. So this 90 days has skipped. Some have even skipped the appeal filing date. See, because once your registration is cancelled and this 90 days is skipped out, then again you have time of about another 90 days within which this order can be appealed. Now, many of them have skipped this 90 days also. So they could not file the appeal also, because when they went to file the appellate authority rejected because it was time barred. Appellate authority also does not have the authority at present to extend beyond 90 days, or at the most 1 month beyond 90 days they have the time, so 120 days maximum. So now again the government had received so many representations because so many registrations were cancelled because of this problems and issues. So now the government again has given a benefit that if you apply for this revocation on or before 30th June 23, If you file all the returns along with the tax, interest, penalty, everything till the date of the cancellation before 30th June 23, then your registration will be revoked. Whatever your registration is cancelled will be reinstated and the GST registration will be started with effect from the date from which it was actually cancelled. So for example, your registration was retrospectively cancelled from say 1st April 2020. So once you follow this procedure, your registration will be reinstated right from that date onwards. And prior to that, already you were registered. So that was not an issue. So from 1st April 2020, your registration will be reinstated. But they have categorically said, this is the last time they are, you see, in between also they had given a chance to this people for, revocation of registration scheme had come earlier also in October, November. Now they are saying this is the last chance available and no further extension of time will be available if your 30th June 23 deadline is missed out. So please be careful wherever your clients' registrations are cancelled. See to it that you follow this procedure and get it revoked. This is actually a jackpot for those people. Why? Because so many appeals have been rejected and people are like nowhere. There is no tribunal, people go into writ petition and all those long process. Until that time, their registration stands cancelled. So everything is a question mark. Their ITC is a question mark. Their reputation is a question mark. Lot of problems were faced and hence government has come out with this. Next is the late fees for GSTR 9. Here they have given a complete reduction for the financial year 22-23 onwards. Earlier what we saw was for financial year 17-18 to 21-22. Okay. Now this particular reduction is for 22-23 onwards. They have divided into various turnover classes. If your turnover is less than 5 CR, then your late fees INR 50 per day, subject to a maximum of only 0.04% of your turnover. If your turnover is between 5 CR and 20 CR, then the late fee is 100 rupees per day, again subject to a maximum of 0.04% of your turnover. And if your turnover is more than 20 CR, then your late fee is normal, what it is at present, that is INR 200 per day, subject to a maximum of 0.5% of the turnover. So government has given benefit to those dealers who are having turnover less than 20 CR for the late fee of GSTR 9, which is the annual return for which the due date to file is 31st December. For this 22-23, it is 31st December 23, before which you have to file the annual return. Now, government is going to come out with a new kind of Aadhaar authentication procedure for the people who are having a new registration or who are trying to get the new registration, or if you are already registered and you are going through this Aadhaar authentication process. At present, this is applicable only in the state of Gujarat. They have brought as a pilot project only in the state of Gujarat. Now, what is this new rule? First of all is that whenever you apply for a registration, whenever you apply for registration, you are getting the acknowledgement, okay? And your effective date of registration is generally the date on which you apply for the registration. Now they have changed the procedure. They are saying that the effective date of registration will be the date of Aadhaar authentication. Now see, here the facility is given. Many times, many people do not have their mobile numbers connected to the Aadhaar card. So then Aadhaar authentication is not possible on the basis of an OTP. In such a scenario, what happens then? If you cannot do your Aadhaar authentication procedure, then after 15 days of application of registration, the department people will come to your office for physical verification. Okay, so what is this new procedure saying? That your date of submission of registration will be the date on which you are doing the Aadhaar authentication, or 15 days from the submission of application, whichever is earlier. So suppose you are not doing the authentication till 15 days, then on the 16th day will be the date of your submission of registration. Now, while doing the other authentication, if the applicant is identified as risky, then what the applicant has to do is he has to carry out the full procedure of the biometric authentication at one of the facilitation centers notified by the commissioner, along with photo and full set of original documents uploaded during the registration. So if the dealer is identified as a risky dealer during the course of other authentication, then they have to follow this procedure. They have to go to a facilitation center, they have to submit their photograph, they have to do their biometric authentication, that is their fingerprints and everything. Then they have to also submit the original documents which they have, whatever documents they have uploaded, that original documents also they have to submit as a proof. They don't have to submit, they have to show for verification. So this pilot project is at present implemented in the state of Gujarat. If it goes successful, then very soon it will be implemented throughout the country. So now the registration will be more problematic. So before filing for any registration application, make sure that all the Aadhaar cards are having the mobile numbers of associated with the Aadhaar card. Do the OTP verification prior to the application by going to the Aadhaar website, and then you carry out the registration application so that you don't have to face all these hassles. Next is the order under section 73. Now section 73 in the GST Act is for recovery of tax. Okay, so there if you all are aware that due to COVID, there was extension of time limit for all sorts of applications for registration bolo, yeah, refund bolo, filing of appeal. Dealers were given the benefit, the 2 years time limit, right from 15th March 2020 to 28th February 22. These 2 years are completely not counted. So similar benefit is given to the departmental officers also, whereby they had some specific time limit to pass an order under section 7310, which is either for the recovery of tax paid, tax not paid, tax short paid, or ITC wrongly availed or utilized. So proper officer has to pass the order within a period of 3 years of the due date of filing of the annual return. So for example, 17-18 if you take, okay, then the proper officer has to pass an order by 2021. 3 years from the date of annual return. Sorry. So for 17-18, the actual time limit for issue of order was 31st March 23. Why? Because the date of filing of annual return was extended till 31st March 2020, and hence the order passing date was 31st March. This was extended to 30th September 23, wide notification number 13/22, and now they have provided a further extension till 31st December 23. And if you have to issue a notice under section 73(2) for this tax not paid or short paid or ITC wrongly availed or utilized, you have to issue it 3 months prior to the issuance of order. All right. So then thus it is extended to 31st December 23. Then for 18-19 it has been extended to 31st March 24, and for 19-20 it has been extended to 30th June 24. So the officers are having all the more time to pass orders for all these 3 years. Now, this is a very important notification or a circular which came very recently, that is for the refund to unregistered persons of the tax borne by them in the event of cancellation of contract for the supply of services of construction or flat, or on termination of long-term insurance policy. So for these 2 reasons, suppose you have purchased a flat and you are cancelling it, okay, but the builder is not ready to give you the GST amount, because for them the time limit to reverse the GST has already passed away. So for them, the refund is available to the flat buyers. The flat buyers have to apply for the refund application. So they have followed these procedures. Okay, so what is the procedure? First of all, they have to obtain the temporary registration, giving bank details and other authentication. Then a separate registration is required in each state. Okay, अगर वो customer का 2-3 state में flat है जो cancel हुआ है, तो separate registration is required qua state. Application has to be done in RFD 01 under the category refund for unregistered person. Refund amount claimed shall not exceed the total amount of tax declared on the invoices for which the refund is being claimed. Suppose the agreement amount is say of 1 crore, then the refund amount should not exceed 12% of that 1 CR. Then they have to upload statement 8, statement 8 which is there along with all the documents, that is your declarations, your purchase agreement, your cancellation agreement, all the documents has to be uploaded. What all documents are there? Invoices, then proof of payment, whatever payment you have done to the builders, copy of agreement, letter of cancellation, details of payment received from the supplier, whatever payment builder has given you back, that also details you have to submit. Then certificate by the supplier certifying the payment of tax collected has been paid to the government. That certificate also you have to take from the builder. This application will be scrutinized and then refund will be given appropriately on the basis of whatever documents is available with them. But they have incorporated certain conditions. First is that the refund claim can be filed only if the time to issue credit note has expired. What is the time to issue credit note? The time to issue credit note now is 30th November of the next financial year. Okay, so for example, for 22-23, the last date to issue credit note is 30th November 23. And also the relevant date will be 2 years from the date of cancellation of contract. So the day you receive the cancellation of contract, from that date, from 2 years from that date will be the date, relevant date. So after that, again, you cannot apply for the refund because then it will be time bound. Then a major relief had come for 17-18 and 18-19, specifically this 2 period. And also for 19-20 by way of a Karnataka High Court judgment, where they said that this facility, whatever is given to the dealers for 17-18 and 18-19 is to be extended to 19-20 also. Now, what is this facility available? Okay. If you see the situations when ITC, this is specifically for mismatch of ITC. So handling of mismatch of ITC between GSTR 3B and GSTR 2A2B for 17-18, 18-19 and 19-20. These 3 years. What are the situations? Not filed GSTR 1 but filed 3B. Okay, sometimes due to technical glitch or portal GSTR 1 we were not able to upload initially, but we were able to file the 3B. Also at that time, after if you skipping one period GSTR 1, you were able to file the next period GSTR 1 also. So you have not filed the GSTR 1, but you have filed 3B. You have failed to report the supply in GSTR 1. Matlab कि you have not reported the supply only, but 3B में tax भरा है, 1 में supply नहीं दिखाया है. You have not shown the supply in GSTR 1, but you have paid the tax in 3B, because many times what happens, you file GSTR 1 and then somebody raises invoice of the previous month. So while filing 3B, you will say, मैं tax भर देती हूँ, so interest has to be avoided. But then in the next period, I will incorporate that invoice. Now somehow in the next period, you are not able to incorporate, you just simply skip it. So you fail to report the supply in GSTR 1. You have reported as B2C instead of a B2B and wrong GSTR declared of the recipient. In this 4 scenario, the proper officer has to do the verification of all these situations. And what all documents you have to submit to the proper officer? You have to furnish tax paying document. You have to produce the ledgers, the delivery challan, the dispatch proof, e-way bill to confirm for receipt of goods or services because you are claiming the ITC. You have to submit the bank statement showing the proof that you have made the payment for that supply. You have to also check the eligibility under section 17(5). And if your mismatch is more than 5 lakhs, then you have to get a certificate from the CA of the supplier. Okay. And if the mismatch is less than 5 lakhs, then you have to get a certificate from that concerned supplier. Now, when this circular is applicable, first is only to the bona fide errors which are committed during the financial year 17, 18, 18, 19. It shall not be applicable to ITC claimed in 3B post September 18, but before March 19, if the supplier had not furnished the details in GSTR 1 till March 19. Okay, so if you have claimed in 17, 18, specifically 18, 19, the special provisions were given. So they have said that if you have claimed the ITC post September 18, but before March 19 for the year 17, 18, and if the supplier has not furnished the details till March 19, then you are not eligible for this benefit. Circular is not applicable to orders already passed. It is applicable only to the ongoing proceedings and the future proceedings. Okay. So once the orders are passed, you cannot just go and tell them कि नहीं अभी मेरे को ये order में rectify करके दो. No, they are very clear that circular is not applicable. Now this is the to-do list for March ending 23 and for beginning of 23-24, which everybody has to take care. So I think time is short, so I will just go in, not go in so much detail, but I have compiled this in short also, so I'll just go through that. So first is reconcile GSTR 1 with 3B. Whatever GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B you have filed, you reconcile and check whether any tax is short paid or excess paid. Okay, reconcile this with your books of accounts and whether any sale is left out, whether any supply is left out. So then, or any outward supply is not reported, then you have to take the corrective action. Check the liability paid in returns with whatever the liability is coming in your books, whether it is the same. If any short paid, excess paid, you need to adjust. Then e-invoicing, if your turnover has crossed 10 CR in 22-23, then e-invoice is applicable from 1st April 23. And e-invoice is mandatory because if you are falling under e-invoice and still you are not raising the e-invoice, then it is as good as invoice not raised. And if e-invoice was already applicable, then check whether all B2B supplies, all credit notes, all exports and all SEZ supplies, whether e-invoicing has been raised. If it is not raised, then it is requested to raise it as on today, because that other person will not get the credit. Then if you are, your dealer is, or if your customer or client is an exporter, then LUT has to be applied for 23-24. So please apply it, then only you will be eligible for the benefit of doing exports without payment of tax. Then if again it's an exporter client, then you have to check whether all the shipping bills details are filled for the entire year of 22-23 in GSTR 1. Because if the shipping bill details are not filled properly, then it is as good as they are not exports. Then if you have made supply to merchant exporter at a concessional rate, if you have taken the benefit of 0.1% tax rate, then you have to see whether all the conditions of that notification number 40/2070 is complied with. Ensure that GST is paid on all your other income. If you have sold any fixed assets, if you have sold any car, if you have, other income, मतलब कोई commission receive हुआ है किसी से, which you are showing in other income. So all those other income which you generally do not report in your trading account, see to it that tax has been paid. Suppose there is scrap sale, suppose, so all such where GST is applicable. See to it that GST has been paid on such things. Supply of services. Now, we all are aware that for services, GST has to be paid on the advances also. So see to it whether GST is paid on all the advances during the year 22-23. And then when invoices are raised for such advances, see to it that they are properly compensated, or you can say properly rectified in your GST returns, properly displayed. Sometimes what happens, you show the advance, then you forget to show the adjustment of the advance when the invoice is raised. Okay, so you have paid the tax twice. So then you have to adjust all those things. You have to check and adjust that there is no double taxation. There has to be a new invoice series for the financial year 23-24. If you have to opt for composition in QRMP scheme, then you have to apply. And also in case of GTA matlab Goods Transport Agency, every year they have to apply in Annexure 5 of what taxation they are carrying out, and that has to be done before 15th March 23. I know the time has already gone, but if you have not done this Annexure 5, then the default system is on the reverse charge basis. That means the recipient has to pay the tax and not the GTA. Only if you want to go for the forward charge, then you have to submit this Annexure 5. This was all about the outward supply. For your inward supply, what you have to do is you have to reconcile your ITC availed in the books, availed in 3B, whatever available in 2B. Everything you have to reconcile. Then you have to identify the suppliers who have not filed their GSTR1 and not reflecting in 2B. You have to follow up with them. You have to tell the clients to follow up with those people. Then they have to identify the supplier who has not paid the tax or whose registration is cancelled and take appropriate steps. Whatever ITC is pending of financial year 22-23, you have time till 30th November 23 to take it, but preferably see to it that all the suppliers file the returns properly and you are able to take the credit in 22-23 itself. Reverse the ITC of the suppliers to whom the payment is not made till 180 days. Now, if you are purchasing something and if you are not making the payment within 180 days, then you have to reverse that ITC. So see to it that also has been done. Ensure that the entries are properly accounted in your books of accounts and your closing balance in your books is matching with your electronic credit ledger. Then as far as imports are concerned, you have to check whether all the bill of entries are reflecting in 2B. If any, if not reflecting, you have to follow this procedure in the GST login of search bill of entry procedure, by which you can call for the bill of entries which is not reflecting in 2B. You have to check eligibility of all the ITC which you have claimed, whether if they are falling under 17.5, then you have to see that you have reversed it, or if you are having any exempt supply, then you have to see that the proper ITC is reversed under 40-43. For example, you have sold some flat, you have sold some shares, you have purchased shares, sold shares, and everything is reversal is applicable for everything. Many companies do purchase and shares transactions of securities. So there the appropriate ITC reversal of the common credit needs to be done. Also, you have to check that whatever RCM is reflected in your 2B, whether the same has been paid or not. Otherwise, again, in future, there will be notice applicability. In case where you are purchasing from a URD, and you have to pay the tax under RCM, for example, transportation hai, security services hai. So you have to do self-invoicing. So see to it whether your client has done the self-invoicing of all the purchases which they have done on which the client has paid the RCM from unregistered dealers. Then you have to say other miscellaneous things is that whether any modification or amendment needs to be done in your registration certificate. If the client has shifted to some other place or they have purchased some other place, all those things needs to be mentioned in the registration certificate. Also, HSN has been made compulsory. So see to it that depending on the turnover, you declare the HSN in your GSTR1 and also on your invoice. So Up to 5 CR, minimum 4-digit HSN is required and 6-digit for others. But if you are doing exports, then 8-digit HSN is required irrespective of your turnover. So this is in brief about what you are supposed to do, the to-do list of March of the outward supply and the inward supply as well. So friends, thank you for your attention. Any questions? I am available. And before closing, I will definitely say never stop learning because life never stops teaching. And as for the law, it is always picture abhi baki hai mere dost.
Thank you, Deepali ma'am. We do have a question over here for you.
Okay.
It says
So
G20.
should I stop this my screen?
Sure, ma'am. So the audience, one of the audience has asked G20 with WTO June 22 and MSME along with Startup India, an officer in charge and cryptocurrency schedule is required or not?
For what?
For a G20 with the WTO for an MSME in a startup.
G20.
G20 is written, yes.
Is it connected to the GST? I'm not able to understand the question at all.
That's what is written actually. G20 with WTO June 22 and MSME along with Startup India. Officer in charge and cryptocurrency schedule would be required to be filled or not, something like that.
So is it related to cryptocurrency? It is related to that World Trade, World
Yes,
Congress meet.
WTO, yes. It seems
World
so.
Congress meet mein what it was, what is Startup India hai to what is required?
But-
G20 is required.
Yeah, G20 is required. Officer in charge.
G20 or GST registration, what they are trying to say?
It's just written G20, man.
So I'm not able to understand the question. I'm so sorry. Whosoever written the question, please clarify what you have written.
Yoga Lakshmi, can you please just clarify what exactly is requested from your end? Okay, ma'am. So actually it was a really in-depth and detailed session on your part. So we hardly have any queries on this. It's all cleared. So I'd like to thank you, ma'am, on behalf of the Women and Young Excellence Members Committee of ICAI for conducting this session, taking out time and explaining in detail with practical illustrations. And I'd also like to thank Preeti ma'am for giving us this opportunity to organize such a wonderful session. Thank you, ma'am. And I'd like to hand over now to Sneha for continuing with the session.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Karishma ma'am. Yeah, let's start the second session. For our second session, we have a CA Priyanka Sharma for a very new topic, emotional intelligence. It is now my great pleasure to introduce CA Priyanka Sharma. She did a bachelor and master's from HL College in 2007 and qualified a CA from 2009. She is qualified soft skill trainer, ICB, Ahmedabad in 2018. Priyanka ma'am is dedicated to help people upskill on their social intelligence and behavioral skills to enable them to gain an edge professionally and help organizations to meet their goals through an inspired and motivated workforce. She has an expertise in training programs on leadership, communications, and interpersonal skills, and is known for a highly engaging delivery, depth of knowledge, and ability to connect with her learners. More than a decade of corporate experience she had, and she worked with IDEA and PwC. She has a versatile clientele for corporate coach and soft skill trainer. Thank you. I'm giving the CA Priyanka ma'am to start this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sneha. Thank you, everyone, for joining this session. I would special thanks to the Women and Young Members Excellence Committee for having me here. It's indeed a pleasure to take this session with you all. I'll just share my screen right now. Give me a second. Yes, so today we are going to talk about emotional intelligence. As Sneha rightly said, it's a very, very new topic. It's the buzzword since the last few years now. It's one of the most newly introduced, I can say, skill set. Actually, it was first introduced in the year 1995, but it has gained traction in the recent years, especially in the field of leadership and management. So my motive here is to talk about emotional intelligence. Since it's a very new topic, there are a lot of myths associated with it. There are many people who do not understand it. They're like, what is the buzz all about? So I'm here to just clarify a few things about emotional intelligence. And like every other skill, emotional intelligence is a skill that requires a lot of practice. And but I'm very happy that people have started giving a lot of attention to it. In fact, there are now talks to introduce this as a curriculum in schools to bring up well-rounded individuals who know how to manage themselves and the people around them. So today what I'm going to do is talk you through what emotional intelligence is, what are the various myths that are associated with it. We are going to break down a few of those myths, and how do you start gaining this emotional intelligence skill. So what I'm going to do right now is break up this particular word, emotional intelligence. I'm going to dissect it into two portions. One is emotions and the other is intelligence. So when we talk about emotions, so when I have a live audience, I generally ask people that, what do you mean by emotions? So I get various answers. And the most common answer is normally feelings. Emotions are feelings. And I'm like, yeah, fair enough. Okay, so suppose I stab you with a needle, what will you feel? They said pain. So I said, is that an emotion? And then they are confused. I said, okay, if I say something bad about you to 10 other people, how would you feel? Now they said, of course, depending on how our relation is, if we are very close, again, they will feel pain. So I said, now, is that an emotion? They say, yes. So what are emotions? And we are so open about branding someone as emotional. And if I ask you, how many different emotions are there? So generally what happens in a live audience is the number of participants I have is the number of emotions that they come up with. In fact, you can also do that. Go into the Google search bar and type in different types of emotions. And what you will get is a figure ranging from 5 to 34,000. Human beings have the ability to experience 34,000 different types of emotions. Now, how do you get intelligent about it? Is what we call emotional intelligence. So I'll just share my screen again. Yeah. So generally, children in schools are taught about emotions, and the basic emotions are being happiness and sadness and stuff like that. So now, but what I would like to focus on here is emotions are different for different people. What you are, each person who's listening to this webinar right now is a very unique individual. It is actually whatever you are right now is a series of experiences that you have had right from your childhood to right now where you're sitting in front of me and listening to me. So various influences, right from your teachers, your siblings, your parents, your environment, your grandparents, your friends, and the various instances that have happened to you all shape the person that you are. And it all shapes also how your reaction to various situations. So now emotions, although they have been universally named, like for example, happiness or sadness, however, how each person experiences these emotions are different. So it also differs from culture to culture as well. So the way I experience anger will be very different from the way you experience anger. Will be very different from someone else who experiences anger. And each of our reactions to it will be very different. My favorite example when I talk about this is driving. I'm presently in Ahmedabad, and if anyone who is here from Ahmedabad would know, the driving here is different, to say the least. So you are on the road and you are minding your business, you're focused on the road, you're focused on the signal, there's a red light, you stop there. Now there is someone who comes in and bangs right into your car. Now, what is the emotion that you will feel? So this is the most common example that I give, is because most of the people relate to this. And I'll say 99% of us are going to feel anger, right? So this is an emotion that all of us feel, have described it to be. So now, just give me a second. Now, how are you going to react? It will differ from person to person, okay? Now, how I am going to react will be very, very different from the way you are going to react. And what does that reaction have? How do you describe that reaction? Would be based on your emotional quotient or your emotional intelligence level, okay? Just give me a moment. Yes, I'm really sorry about that. So how are you going to react or respond is all based on your emotional intelligence. Okay, we'll come to that a little bit later. So when I talk about emotions, humans have the ability to experience a wide variety of emotions. Scientists still debate on whether we are born with it, whether these emotions are hardwired into our brain, or do we learn them or through our experiences. Now, I've always got this particular doubt from people that, 3-month-old baby, a fear is a type of emotion, but does a 3-month-old baby feel fear? We never know. But most probably scientists do agree on the fact that fear is something that is learned. So as the child grows, that's when they truly experience, there are certain instances which make the child fearful, and that's where fear comes into the picture. So fear is a learned emotion. Similarly, happiness, sadness. So there are various other, so scientists are still debating on whether these emotions are inbuilt or hardwired within us, or whether it's something that we learn through experience. But what is definitely there is that, what is a fact is that emotions are there. We do feel emotions, and they arise from very distinct parts in our brain. Now, this distinct part in our brain is also responsible not only for emotions, but it's also responsible for learning. It is also responsible for logical thinking, and it is also responsible for conflict management. So as you can see, that emotions are very intrinsically related to how we react and respond to various situations. And that is the reason why we need to be intelligent about it. So what is emotional intelligence? This is something that I got from the internet. It is involved in the capacity to perceive emotions, assimilate emotion-related feelings, understand the information of those emotions, and manage them. I'm pretty sure quite a lot of you did not understand a word of what I said right now. So I'll just clarify it. I'll just simplify it. We tend to associate being emotional as being a very softer person, and that is the reason why it's said that women are more emotional than men. So that it's always there is kind of a bad rep that emotions have. But tell me something, is there no man who has ever felt happiness or sadness or ecstasy or disappointment or amusement? So I don't know why emotions are only associated with the feminine side of the population rather than the male side. But this is something that I would like to burst today. When you describe someone as emotional, it generally means that a person who expresses very strong feelings. So we tend to brand some people as being short-tempered. So this person is someone who not only feels anger, but also makes sure he's very impulsive in showing it. He instantly is able to show his anger. And we know many men who are short-tempered. So they come into the category of being emotional. On the other side of the spectrum, there are people who are very enthusiastic, who are very excited, who have a childlike enthusiasm within them. So even the smallest things make them very excited, and they are very open to show it. This person also falls within an emotional person. Okay, so it's not just negative emotions, it's also so-called positive emotions as well. Now, these people feel the emotion and they're impulsive, or they are very reactive. They tend to show it as soon as they feel it. That is an emotional person. What about an emotionally intelligent person? Now, an emotionally intelligent person is a person who is aware of their emotions. Okay, so now a short-tempered or an enthusiastic person who tends to show his emotions very easily may not understand, or may not know, or may not realize the emotion that this person is feeling. He's very impulsive to react. However, an emotionally intelligent person is very aware of the feeling inside him. For example, whenever I have to go on a podium to speak, or maybe before this lecture, I'm very acutely aware of butterflies in my stomach. So this is a little bit of nervousness or anxiety that I tend to feel before giving a lecture. So I'm aware of this emotion. Okay, so the first step to emotional intelligence is emotional awareness. The second step, which is even more important, is that once you are aware of your emotions, you know how to harness it for tasks like problem solving and thinking. So emotions, like I said, it's in the part of the brain that helps you think. So, but when you experience extreme emotions, it tends to shut down your ability to think. So now when you're emotionally aware, you are able to withdraw from the extreme feeling and use it to problem solve. That Hello. I Yes, sorry, I had a network issue. I'll just share my screen again. So, yeah. Yes. So if you had seen me right now, there was a stress reaction on my face. The emotion that I was feeling was stressful because I suddenly got locked off and I didn't know what was happening. So anyways, we were talking about emotional intelligence. So it's along with being aware about your emotions, it's also about being calm in a situation like this and using it to problem solve or to think clearly. All right. And the third thing is that not only are you able to manage your own emotions, but you're also able to manage the emotions of others. Now, I hope you're able to see the importance of being emotionally intelligent and why it is gaining traction in the field of leadership. Generally, leaders are supposed to manage big teams. They are supposed to manage organizations. They are supposed to manage external vendors. And hence, when they are being emotionally intelligent, they know how to deal with people basically and deal with their emotions. They are just a little more successful. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to burst a few myths that is associated with emotional intelligence. The number one myth is about always being nice, always being charming, always being empathetic. So though empathy is a part of being emotionally intelligent, however, it's not always about being nice or being charming. Now, as I said, gussa sabko aata hai. Everybody feels anger. Everybody feels disappointment. Everybody feels hatred. Now, how are you going to harness that emotion and react in a certain way? So I'll give you another example. Suppose you're working in a company where you're working in a team, and there are certain things that you have come up with. There are certain ideas that you have, and you discuss it with your colleague, and he loves them. He's like, great, you should discuss this in your next team meeting. Now, in the next team meeting, which is with the boss, the colleague with whom you discussed your idea takes credit for everything that you had just discussed with him. He says, this is my idea and this is what I think should be done. Now, what would be your response? How would you feel? Now, everybody would feel anger, they would feel pain, and they would feel hurt, right? Now, in this case, in this scenario, how are you going to respond? How are you going to respond? How are you going to talk to this particular person who just stole your idea? How are you going to demonstrate to your leader that it was you who had come up with? This has this basis in being emotionally intelligent. Now, majority of us, I was someone who was very impulsive, and this is something that had happened to me as well. Where I was working earlier, so my colleague, I was in the audit department, and we had been given a very difficult client. And there were certain findings that we had. There were certain findings in my area of audit, which was sales. And I had discussed this with my colleague, and I said, these are the qualifications that we need to give in the report. And he said, yeah, great, great job. And you found this and wonderful and all that. But when the boss came in, he was the first one to pitch all of these qualifications to him. And I just stood there and I was shocked. I was like, what am I supposed to do? I got extremely angry and I blasted at him. Now, this is a sign of not being emotionally intelligent, but being emotional or being impulsive. The thing is, I lost credibility. Why? Because I shouted at him in the meeting, right? Now, how are you supposed to handle yourself in a situation like this is about being emotionally intelligent. So first you identify the emotion that you're feeling, that is anger, hurt, pain. And then you think about the perfect way to address that particular emotion in that particular situation. So probably blasting at him in front of the boss was not a great idea. What I probably would have done was stay silent during that time, but while going out, talk to him about it, that you did it, then you go up to the boss and tell them that no, it was her who did it, right? Something like that. So now what would be the ideal way of handling your emotion in that particular situation is about being emotionally intelligent. I'll come back to my previous example where I said that you're driving and you're in a car, you're standing at the red light and someone bangs into your car. Now, I tend to give this example to a lot of live audiences, and I get various responses, and it's really fun to hear. But generally, the younger crowd are more open about how they feel. So they're like, "Main to gaali dunga, ma'am." And I'm like, yeah, quite understandable, right? The older people who do understand that this is an emotionally intelligent topic that we're talking about, so they tend to give very measured answers like, ma'am, we'll see that if it's covered under insurance, and then whether we should go out and we should fight with him, and we will request this person that he pays for the damages. I'm like, really? Are you going to do that? So now my answer to this is, in that particular situation, what is the ideal way to react? The ideal way to react may be shouting. The ideal way to react may be ignoring. The ideal way to react may be calling the police, going to the side of the road and then sorting the issue out. So identifying which is the ideal reaction in that particular situation is about being emotionally intelligent. Next, it has to be equated with other personality traits. Now, let me tell you, intelligence quotient or IQ, personality, and emotional quotient, that is EQ. These three are very, very distinctive parts of what you are. Personality is something that we are blessed with, which develops by the age of 5. It's very difficult, or it's very, it takes a lot to change your personality after that. Personality of a person is set by the age of 5. IQ again is something that is also set at a very, very young age. In fact, we have had news reports coming of 5-year-old girl or an 8-year-old boy having the same IQ level as Einstein, right? So IQ is also something that is hardwired into us at a very young age. However, EQ, or emotional quotient, emotional intelligence is also known as EQ, that is emotional quotient, is something that we learn. It's something that is that keeps on going on in our head. It's something that is developed with our experiences. It's something that we practice, and hence, if that I am of a particular personality trait, suppose I'm an extremely extroverted person, that does not automatically make me a very impulsive person. Okay, if I'm an introverted person, I'm someone who's very quiet, that does not automatically equate with me being a very calm person or a very calm reactor to certain situations. A very extroverted person can also be very calm, and a very introverted person can also be highly impulsive and reactive. Now, so EQ is something that is learned. There are neural connections that are constantly happening within the brain. Now, the best part about that is that it is a skill which can be learned through practice. And like every other skill, it is also a little difficult to master. I'll come back again to my driving example. So I'm assuming quite a lot of you know how to drive a car. Now, when you started learning, it must have seemed such a daunting task, right? Okay, you know, should I focus on the steering wheel? Should I focus on changing the gears? Should I press the clutch or the accelerator, especially if I'm driving a manual car? And should I put my eyes on the road? I mean, there are like 7 different things that I need to take care of. It must have been so difficult for us. At first, it seems impossible, right? And then later on, it starts, as in when you practice, it becomes your unconscious competence, right? Emotional intelligence is also very similar. Now, how do you start about doing it? We'll come to it in the next slide. But what I want you to know is that it is very distinctive from personality and IQ. It's something that you can learn. Thirdly, you either have it or you don't. This is a myth that many people tend to have, that this person is highly emotionally intelligent, this person is not. Main nahi hu, then I cannot develop it. Very similar to the previous point, you can learn it. Okay, this is something that I tend to get a lot, that you can't be mentally tough and emotionally intelligent at the same time. Now, what is being mentally tough? Mentally tough is someone who tends to not get into emotions. It's someone who tends to think practically under extreme duress. So when you talk about very high performing sportsmen, and the one person that comes to my mind is MS Dhoni, he's known to be extremely mentally tough. When we observe that on the field, right? There are like, in a crowd of thousands and thousands of people, he is able to keep his cool, he's able to focus on his game and take the right decisions. And hence, he is known to be mentally tough. But I actually would call him emotionally intelligent. Mentally tough is an aspect of emotional intelligence, is to know when to get the emotions better of you, or when to keep a cool head and focus on the task on hand. Sportsmen especially tend to have a lot of training with respect to how to manage their emotions. It is doable. If they can do it, so can we, right? It is all a part of emotional intelligence. It is not separate. It is not something that only a few people have, okay? And my favorite myth is that women tend to have it more than men. So this myth is actually based a little bit on fact, since I have a primarily female audience here, so I can be very unhindered in saying this, that yes, studies have shown that when it comes to EQ, women generally tend to score higher than men. But actually, a lot has to do with the social construct or the social conditioning with which a girl child is brought up. When we are a girl child, when we are when we are younger, a daughter, as a daughter, you tend to see the women around you, especially your mother or the neighboring auntie or your grandmother, who tend to be very nurturing, very caring. They tend to put other people's feelings and their needs above themselves. And this is what you always, even though you do not consciously learn it, it is you tend to imbibe it very subconsciously. And as you grow up, you this is what you are told, this is what you see in society, this is what you see in movies, that women are supposed to be more nurturing, caring, and tend to keep others' needs above themselves. And this is how they become. And hence, when a woman is put in a leadership position, these are the exact qualities that she tends to display for her team. And then she is known as a woman leader with a great EQ. Unfortunately for men, I'll say that unfortunately for men, they are not exposed to this kind of a social construct. But that does not mean that men have lower EQs than women genetically, right? I have seen men who have higher EQs, men who do experience feelings. We've already seen that, right? Men experience anger, happiness, sadness, ecstasy, everything. So men definitely can also have emotional intelligence as much as women. And not all women are as emotionally intelligent as men. So that's not a gender thing, it's a very human thing, since emotions are human and not gender specific. Okay, I hope I have busted all the myths with respect to emotional intelligence. A few facts with respect to job performance and emotional quotient. As I said, in the last few years, there's a lot of buzz happening. There's a lot of interest in the field of leadership and management, and in terms of job performance also when it comes to EQ. In fact, I saw an interview by Satya Nadella, who is the CEO of Microsoft, and he mentioned that, while hiring people at the top level, yes, they do look at technical skills and every other skill. But what is the most important thing that they look for in the new hires is empathy. So they tend to give the case study of, suppose, you are going on a street and you see a baby crying, a lone baby, a 3-month-old baby wrapped in a blanket, which is alone and it's crying on the side of the road. What will you do? This is generally a question that he tends to ask new hires. And he said that I hire them on the basis of their answers. So there are many who say that, we'll call an ambulance, or we'll call 108, or we'll call child service, or we'll dial up 911, that is the helpline there in the US. And he said very few people actually say that we're going to pick up the baby and first sush it and try to calm it down before thinking of doing the next step. All right, and this is what empathy is all about. So certain facts about EQ and job performance. So what percentage of EQ is related to high job performance, whether it is for supervisors or it is for CEOs? Now, very interestingly, EQ accounts for 60% of your high job performance. Now, what percentage of top performers are high in EQ? This is again very, very interesting. 90% of top performers, especially at the management level, are very, very high in their emotional quotient. Now, a skeptic like me would also feel that you can be, now since IQ and EQ are not related, are there people who are low performers and yet have a high EQ? So I researched that as well. And very interestingly, for skeptics like me, what percentage of low performers are higher in EQ? So 20%. So it's IQ and EQ are unrelated, as I said. So if you are low on your technical skills, but you're high on EQ, obviously your job performance is going to be impacted. However, if you're great at your technical skills and every other skill, then if you have a good EQ, you tend to perform higher than others. There's another study, the statistics of which I have not given here, but I found it very interesting nevertheless, was that EQ peaks at mid-management level. At mid-management, the person is expected to handle a large team and also look after their goals, right? And very interestingly, it starts falling from mid-management upwards. The people with the lowest EQ are normally the CEOs. Organizations have now gone through this data and they are in a very corrective, they've gone into corrective actions. They are trying to change their strategies, and they are trying to bring in more learning and more training into the field of EQ for managers above mid management. So that's something very interesting as well. A case study for you: your colleague and you have joined the company at almost the same time, and you both have been assigned complementary roles. You both are at a similar designation. However, your colleague has this habit of constantly gazing into your screen to see what you're up to. He gives uncalled for suggestions and advice, and you feel that he's interfering into your work, and you find it extremely annoying. Okay, now any person in this particular situation would be extremely irritated and annoyed, right? Emotions. This is the emotion that you feel. Now, how would you go about it? Now, there is no right answer to this, but every person would probably deal it in a very different way. But being emotionally intelligent is to first recognize that what specific behavior is triggering this particular emotion in me. Is it the fact that he's constantly giving suggestions? Is it the fact that he's not giving me physical space? Is it the fact that he's constantly giving me advice? Is it the fact that I feel belittled, or he feels that I am not up to doing the job that I have in hand? Okay, now all of this processing is done in a matter of seconds by your brain. Okay, so for a highly emotionally intelligent person, this is something that is running into this person's mind. Now, once you identify the trigger, you tend to work on the trigger rather than on the person. So instead of blaming the person, yaar tum hamesha meri screen mein dikhte rahe, you keep giving me advice and I don't like it. Now, if you use a tone like this, it is quite possible that that person would feel bad, and it may or may not be his intention to annoy you or irritate you, right? So being emotionally intelligent is also recognizing the intent of the other person. So you're not only recognizing your own emotions, but you're also trying to recognize the emotions of others. So that's where empathy comes into the picture. So now, how would you deal with the situation? How would you articulate your feelings in a manner in which that you are able to assertively state what you are feeling, and at the same time you're also not targeting or pinpointing at the other person? So this is what being emotionally intelligent is. Another example that comes to my mind is I just saw a talk by Simon Sinek, who is a world-renowned leadership coach. So he gave an example where a friend of his, who was an actor who just got her first play, she invited him to watch this play, and he went along, and he said the play was terrible. It was so bad, and she was so bad in it. But at the end of the play, but he had to sit through it since she was his friend, right? Now, at the end of the play, the friend came to him and asked him that, how was it? Now, he recognized that this friend of his had just been on stage. So there's a huge adrenaline pumping in her body. She's extremely excited. Her cheeks were flushed, and she was feeling an extreme emotion of reward, right? He said at that point of time, if I had told her that you were terrible, her emotions would have come crashing down, and she would have reacted very, very badly. So he just said that, but he said I couldn't be dishonest. So what I just said is, it was really great to see you do what you love doing. Now, he was not being dishonest. At the same time, he just put his feedback, and he took care of the fact that, what she's feeling right now. He said, after a couple of days, I thought it was my responsibility to be honest to her and tell her what are the things that I didn't like. He called her up, and at that time, she was obviously not feeling as extreme emotions as she felt when she just came down from stage. He said, this is what I felt about the play. Now, when he said that, she was a little more accepting, and they had a wonderful conversation, and she was able to accept that this was his opinion about her acting. So in being emotionally intelligent is also recognizing the right time and the right place and the right environment to express your feelings. That is what emotionally intelligence, what being emotionally intelligent is. If you remember, I talked about unconscious competence. Okay. Now, what is conscious competence? What is unconscious competence? What is conscious incompetence? And what is unconscious incompetence? Okay. Right now, when it comes to emotional intelligence, when you have no idea what it is unconscious incompetence. You have no idea what it is, and neither are you competent enough to display it. Now, after this talk, when I'm telling you that it is extremely important to be well-rounded, it is extremely important to to be self-aware of your emotions and react in a certain, respond in a certain way. Okay, I'll just take a step back and tell you the difference between reaction and response. Reaction is impulsive. It's the first thing that comes to your mind when you are faced with a certain situation. So consider the car banging into your car. Your impulse or your first reaction would be anger, right? It would be to shout or scream. That is impulsive. That is your reaction. Now, getting through that, what environment I'm in, would it help, who this person is, can I have a reasonable discussion about him, can I get money from him, what should I do about the situation? When you're thinking all of that and then choosing to react in a certain way, that is called your response. Okay, so response is nothing but measured reaction, okay, according to the situation or the environment that you are in. That is reaction and response. Now, coming to emotional intelligence, again, I'll give the example of driving a car. So till you didn't know what a car is, you were unconsciously incompetent to drive a car. Once you decided that now you want to drive a car, you have become aware of the skill that you need to develop, but you're still incompetent. So you're consciously incompetent. You're conscious of the fact that you do not know how to drive the car, right? You enroll yourself in a driving school. And when you go into the school and you practice and practice and practice, that's when you come to the stage of conscious competence. When you're driving, you're very, very aware, you're very focused on the steering wheel, on the gear, on the clutch, on the brake, on the accelerator, and you have on your eyes on your road. You're extremely focused while driving. So that's when you're consciously competent. Now, when you're consciously competent for a very long period of time, you start becoming unconsciously competent. So when I wake you in the middle of the night and tell you I need to go somewhere, you will, even in a half groggy state, you will be able to sit behind the wheel and drive me there. That's when you are unconsciously competent. So emotional intelligence or any other skill all pass through these 4 stages. My purpose for giving this particular lecture or a webinar was to make you consciously aware of the fact that this is a skill that you need to learn. So we are at the first stage, the awareness. Now, how do you develop it? How do you go from the stage of an unconscious incompetence to at least conscious competence and later on unconscious competence? These are the various steps of being emotionally intelligent. So there's a guy called Daniel Goleman. He's considered to be the father of modern emotional intelligence theories. He's also there on LinkedIn. You can definitely follow him. His articles are extremely thought-provoking, and they are very specific related to the workplace. As a professional, what are the various emotional intelligence skills that you need to master and develop? Do follow him, and you'll slowly realize what all skills that you need to practice. Now, he came up with these 4 aspects of emotional intelligence. It always starts with the first red block, which is self-awareness. Like I started my lecture describing emotions. So you have to be very, very aware of the emotions that you are experiencing and why you're experiencing them, the triggers that made you experience those emotions. Once you identify the trigger, you'll be able to better manage them. Okay, so the first step always starts with emotional self-awareness. You have to be emotional intelligence is a skill that always starts with yourself. So that's the beauty of it. Second comes self-management. Now, once you've identified your triggers, you start managing, you start establishing control over the triggers. You become more adaptive. You start having a positive outlook that, no, I can get out of this. I do not have to be impulsive. There is a different way in which I can react. Once you start getting that kind of a competence, you start self-managing yourself. In a particular situation, in a particular environment, how do you need to react or respond? First of all, you need to own your feelings. What you're feeling is not wrong. It's the body's perfectly natural response to what you're feeling, right? But how do you manage it is what the game is all about. Then comes social awareness. Now, once you start managing your feelings, you tend to become more empathetic towards others' feelings as well. You start feeling, you start to gain an acceptance of the other person's feelings, and you start getting also competent in managing that person's feelings. So you get organizational awareness. And of course, the last one is relationship management. That's when you come to the position of influencing others, of coaching and mentoring others, conflict management, and teamwork. Something very, very interesting about conflict management is the body's natural response when it is faced with a stressful situation is fight, flight, freeze. Okay, this is the body's natural response. Since we have evolved from apes, all animals are extremely impulsive when faced with danger. And since we are also animals, we have evolved from animals, we have the same stress response. We tend to fight, flight, that is go away, run away from that situation, or freeze, that is, you don't know what your mind goes blank. However, conflict management has its roots in emotional intelligence. So when you realize that this is a stress trigger for you, you take a step back, you take a deep breath, and then you analyze the situation. That is, what's the best way to go forward? How do I reduce my stress? How do I handle this problem which is in front of me? That's when you start gaining conflict management skills. When two people are arguing, when one person is raising his voice, we have mirror neurons in our brain. So the first impulse is always to mirror that person's reaction. So our first impulse would always be to shout in the same tone and the same volume as the other person. I do a lot of customer service workshops, and this is what we have an entire module on how to handle aggressive and argumentative customers. So this is what I tend to say, that your first impulse would always be to shout equally higher, right? But no, what you're supposed, and never say calm down. Whenever you're faced with someone who is shouting, the more you say calm down, the more he tends to get more aggressive. Okay, what you're supposed to do is just relax, sit back, give a very neutral expression on your face, and listen very intently. That's called the pressure cooker syndrome. The other person's brain neurons will then try to mirror the behavior that he is seeing in you. When you are calm, that person also then gradually gets calmer and calmer. So this is all a part of being emotionally intelligent. I hope this session was very informative for you. It was a pleasure taking this session. And if you have any questions, I would love to take them. Thank you so much. Hi, Mickey. I'm not able to hear you. No, I'm still not able to hear you. You can probably use a chat. I'll just read it. If you have any questions, I can definitely read it and answer them. Oh, you're welcome, Mickey.
Amount has to be charged only on outstanding remaining tenure of the on the outstanding amount for the remaining. So हमारा ये वाला नहीं करते.
Okay, there's someone who is not muted. Yes, do we have any questions? All right. Okay. There are no questions. Thank you so much for having me here, and thank you for being such a wonderful audience. I really hope to interact with you more in the future. You can follow me on LinkedIn. My name is Priyanka Sharma, and I go by my company name is Wordsmith Training Solutions. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you
Thank you.
for your wonderful session.
Thank you.
इसको ऐसा ना नहीं समझ रहा है क्या है।
Can I leave the meeting? Okay. Thank you.